ਡਾਕਟਰ ਅਲੀ ਕਨਾਨੀ ਆਰਥੋਡੋਂਟਿਕਸ ਦੇ ਸਰਟੀਫਾਈਡ ਸਪੈਸ਼ਲਿਸਟ ਹਨ। ਇਹ ਹਰ ਕਿਸਮ ਦੀਆਂ ਡੈਂਟਲ ਤੇ ਫੇਸ਼ੀਅਲ ਇਰੈਗੂਲੈਰਿਟੀਜ਼ ਦੀ ਜਾਂਚ ਕਰਕੇ ਇਲਾਜ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਨ ਤੇ ਰੋਕਥਾਮ ਦੇ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਦੱਸਦੇ ਹਨ। ਸਾਫ਼ ਸੁਥਰੇ ਮਾਹੌਲ ਤੇ ਲੇਟੈਸਟ ਮਸ਼ੀਨਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਤੋਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਬਜ਼ੁਰਗਾਂ ਤੱਕ ਦੀ ਟ੍ਰੀਟਮੈਂਟ ਕੀਤੀ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ। ਇਲਾਜ ਕਰਾਓ ਤੇ 에ਅਰ ਮਾਈਲਸ ਵੀ ਪਾਓ। ਕ੍ਰੀਏਟਿੰਗ ਬਿਊਟੀਫੁਲ ਸਮਾਈਲਸ, ਗਿਲਫਰਡ ਆਰਥੋਡੋਂਟਿਕ ਸੈਂਟਰ 604 599 2212 ਜਾਂ ਲੈਂਗਲੀ ਆਰਥੋਡੋਂਟਿਕਸ 604 533 6696।
ਅਸਲ ਵਿੱਚ ਤਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਸ ਸਰੀਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੱਕ ਸਪਿਰਿਚੁਅਲ ਬੀਇੰਗ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ। ਸਾਡੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਸਪਿਰਿਟ ਹੈ ਉਸ ਦਾ ਮੂਲ ਅਸੀਂ ਪਹਿਚਾਨਣਾ ਹੈ। ਕਿਵੇਂ ਪਹਿਚਾਨ ਸਕਨੇ ਆ, ਆਓ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਹੋਰ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ। ਸੋ ਬਿਫੋਰ ਦ ਬ੍ਰੇਕ, ਲਾਈਕ ਯੂ ਮੈਂਸ਼ਨ that if you have gone off track, which most of us have gone,
yes,
due to the circumstances, due to the conditioning what we have had,
yes,
so how to come back on that track so that we understand and align ourselves with that spiritual power?
Well, the first step is honesty with ourselves. So recognizing that we are off track, admitting. And I think I mentioned previously that it takes a lot of courage and humility.
Right.
To recognize, but it helps us when we understand that that is our human condition. We're not perfect beings.
Right.
Our whole lifetime is about growth and developing ourselves. That's what we're here to do.
Right.
So we're not alone in any struggle that we're having. You know, most people struggle with things.
Right.
So I think it's to have that intention, and that's the beauty of any religious focus. When people have a faith that they follow, it does provide a framework and a map,
Right.
and a compass, if you will, to recognize when we're off track or
Right.
not. So it really is about, again, drawing on those inner strengths that we have of determination and courage to get ourselves back on track. The first step is admitting we're off track.
Right. And then further on work on that.
Yes.
Because we should also realize that whatever one is doing is going to have an impact around them.
Absolutely.
Many times we forget that and think that, no, how does it make a difference if I do this? It's not going to make a difference.
Oh my gosh. Well, you know, we are a universe within our own self. You know, like really, if you think about the magnificence of each and every human being, our soul, our bodies are an absolute miracle. I mean, we are miracles. And our you know, part of our collective spiritual reality is to advance ourselves collectively. And every person has a role to play. Every person can contribute to that advancement. So if I begin my life, I'm going to go back and use that very big analogy of slavery. Okay, so if I begin my life, I'm surrounded by people who believe in slavery. And in my lifetime, I let go of that belief and start to believe in the equality of people.
Right.
Then I have grown myself, I have transformed myself, but I've also contributed to advancing humanity.
Right.
So as we take up this task of aligning ourselves spiritually,
Right.
because that can only be good and that can only benefit society, that we are having an impact. It's not just about us.
Right.
We have an impact, and we can feel confident that we're a part of this big picture.
That's very true. And until unless you realize that, otherwise you cannot spiritually align yourself. For example, in the past few weeks, we saw that there was a spurt in gang violence killings in the lower mainland. And the thing is that we have to align ourselves, because what is happening today in the society is, for that materialistic run, what we have adopted, everybody wants to step on other to reach that success. But they don't themselves know what is that success.
Right.
And because that spiritual alignment is not there, that balance is not there. So probably one thing, it has become lopsided. Life has become lopsided.
Yes, very much.
Like I see you, Kelly has everything, and I feel that that's the only end probably. But I don't see how you have reached that success, how you have reached that materialistic success.
Right.
And that is probably the reason that our youth today, a lot of them, of course there are many positive role models also, but many of them are also being weaned away towards the negative aspects also.
Yeah, it's a very powerful force in our society, the negative, right? And yes, money drives a lot of behavior. But I think when people get caught up in it, they can see the problems of it. You know, I mean, it's a living hell to be surrounded by violence and, you know, dishonesty and so on. So I mean, people are off track to a greater or lesser degree, but
Right.
usually we're all of us are needing to fine tune ourselves.
Very right.
You know, if someone's, for example, find themselves really struggling with an addiction like alcohol or pornography or something, and they're not able to make that adjustment themselves, then it's
Right.
really to get the help that they need. Again, we live in a part of the world where that help is available.
That's right.
And by shifting ourselves here, we impact the rest of the world. Again, it's that we're all in this together. Humanity is progressing. You know,
Right.
one part of the world might be catching up, you know, maybe slower. Here, we're more advanced in terms of our human rights issues and so on. And we
Right.
need to use those. We need to stand on those and continue to move forward.
Very true. So cooperation is the foundation. Through cooperation, then we can expand ourselves.
Yes.
But many times there is a lack of communication,
Yeah.
and that cooperation doesn't come in handy. In the sense, starting from the family, which is the foundation
Right.
of any success.
It is.
So in the families also, we are finding that cooperation is not existing. Everybody is so much busy in their own affairs
Yeah.
that nobody has the time. And right now, with this advancement of technology,
Yeah.
earlier people used to communicate with each other through
Yes.
letters
Yes.
or through verbal conditioning. You know, there was there.
Yes.
But right now we are finding even at homes also, from the rooms there are so many rooms and
Yes.
people are texting each other
Right.
and going forward.
Right.
So this advancement which is taking us to another level,
Yeah.
but on the other end that spiritual elevation is having a setback. What do you feel about this?
Well, it's interesting. I heard a CBC radio interview on this very subject. How there's a loneliness that is developing because of our technologies, and we're perhaps losing our ability or opportunities to really connect and have those relationships that we want.
Right.
So again, it's for each individual person to ask, you know, is that happening for me? Because, you know, you can't change everything. You know, we can't, the only person we can change is ourselves. But if
Right.
collectively we do that, and collectively we have these kind of conversations, then, you know, there can be a shift.
Right.
But I think it's for each family, each individual to say, am I off balance here?
Right.
Do I need to spend more time to really consciously carve out time for my relationships?
And that self-esteem has to be there, because right now you have been bombarded with so much of everything in the market and even the peer pressure and
Yeah.
even the society,
Yeah.
that if you are not strong from inside, you will easily get swayed away by anything which can take you away from that path which you are trying to adopt.
Yeah, there's an expression that says, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything.
Right.
You know, and that's, again, this project is very powerful that way, because it helps us to remember who we really are. And it helps us to have that authentic self-esteem.
Right.
When we act kindly, when we are courteous, we feel good about ourselves.
Right.
You know, and the opposite is true too. We talked about that earlier.
Right.
When we get so off track, we are then in this mess of guilt and shame, and, you know, then that even, you know, makes our
Takes you
self-esteem
further.
worse.
Very
you know,
right.
so it's kind of a spiral. You know, we're spiraling one way or, you know, the other. So
Right.
so we're never stagnant. We're either growing or we're
decaying.
Or decaying.
No doubt. No
Right.
doubt about
So with us, we need to be conscious and we need to make effort.
Right.
It just doesn't happen by itself.
What role can the media here play? Because media has a great influence on the society.
Absolutely.
And media is a reflection of the society only.
is.
Whatever they are demanding, that's what is being brought forward.
Yes.
So do you think that overall, when we see the phase of the media,
Yeah.
what all can be done so that, you know, this kind of strengthening of the spirit, that can be talked about?
Well, again, I think it goes back to this concept of responsibility for people that have positions of power,
Right.
and media do have positions of power, is just to be reflecting on what contribution are we making.
Right.
You know, is this helping? Is this helping with the solution, or is this just fueling the issue or the problem? What
Right.
angle do we want to take here? You know, what you know, maybe let's air something that maybe is a little bit edgy and risky, but we think it's the right thing to do, you know, and take that risk. So, yeah, I think media has a very important role to play, but responsibility comes into play.
That's
as
what
well.
we are talking about
Yeah.
today, that whatever you're doing, be responsible and realize yourself that what can I contribute? How can my thought, how can my doing
Yeah.
change myself as well as anybody who is being affected by that, starting from the family?
Yeah.
So as you said before, that everybody can have a positive or a negative impact on anything. So over here, what is happening is that, for example, let's take an example over here. A youngster, when he sees on the media, sex is selling, drugs, all this, you know, the lifestyle, what is being projected.
Yeah.
But the means are not being talked, but only the end is being projected. So over here, how can the society and the family also play a role whereby the positivities, the strength of spirituality can be imbibed at that child? Like you said, that first thing has to be to come on track, to realize, to admit that I went off track. But then back coming to the on track thing, you ought to have those kind of qualities. So how to initiate that initiation in the family and in the society?
Well, again, it's being conscious. So, for example, I really believe that parents have so much power in the conditions of their home. So, for example, I really recommend to parents to be very cautious about when they introduce media to their children. Before 10 is such a formative age. If they're being exposed to all these images and ideas and so on, that's really going to shape who they are. So the longer we can keep them away,
Right.
you know, I think it's really important that we pay attention to, for example, the ratings of television shows and movies. You know, I'm always struck when I go into a PG-14 movie and there's a 6-year-old kid in the audience.
Right.
You know, like I really don't think that that parent is doing that child a service by exposing them to that.
Right.
So it's, you know, just paying attention, like we've talked about before.
Right.
You know, there are dangers. I guess that's what I want to say. There are dangers that can lead people down the wrong way.
Very
so
true.
as parents, it's knowing that we have a protective role
Very true.
to play with our kids.
Absolutely. Well, we have progressed a lot monetarily, but as you said, you know, now with this new technology coming even in hands, I find that especially in our community, people have the ability to buy things, and even iPhones and laptops and other things are in the hands of iPads in the hands of as little as 6 years old. So without realizing that what impact that can have not only on their health but also on their thoughts also. Well, thank you very much for raising this issue, and I
Thank you,
hope that
Harpreet.
what we have discussed will definitely have a positive impact. Thank you very much for your
Thank
time.
you.
ਅੱਜ ਜਿਸ ਵਿਸ਼ੇ ਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੈ ਰਿਸਪੌਂਸਿਬਿਲਿਟੀ ਕੋਆਪਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ, ਇਸ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਜਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਕੈਲੀ ਨੇ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੈ, ਬੜੀ ਅਹਿਮੀਅਤ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਰਿਸਪੌਂਸਿਬਿਲਿਟੀ ਜਦ ਤੱਕ ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਰਿਅਲਾਈਜ਼ ਕਰਦੇ, ਜਿਸ ਵੀ ਕਿੱਤੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਜਿਸ ਵੀ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਸੀਂ ਕੰਮ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ, ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪਣਾ ਰੋਲ ਕੀ ਹੈ ਉਸ ਨੂੰ ਸਮਝ ਸਕੀਏ, ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਹੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਚੇਂਜ ਲਿਆ ਸਕਨੇ ਹਾਂ। ਗੱਲਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਅਸੀਂ ਚੇਂਜ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਪਰ ਸ਼ੁਰੂਆਤ ਤੋਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਤੇ ਹੀ ਹੋਏਗੀ। ਅਸੀਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਸ਼ਰਾਬ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਇਹ ਮਾੜੀ ਚੀਜ਼ ਹੈ, ਪਰ ਜੇਕਰ ਅਸੀਂ ਹੀ ਆਪਣੀ ਪਾਰਟੀਆਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਸੀਂ ਭਾਵੇਂ ਸੋਸ਼ਲ ਵਰਕ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਜਾਂ ਕੁਝ ਹੋਰ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਉੱਥੇ ਹੀ ਇਹ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਦੀ ਵਰਤਾ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ, ਤਾਂ ਕਿਸ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਨਾਲ ਅਸੀਂ ਇੱਕ ਐਗਜ਼ਾਮਪਲ ਵਜੋਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਆ ਸਕਾਂਗੇ। ਇਹ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਡਿਮਾਂਡ ਕਰਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਅੰਦਰ ਸਵੈ ਪੜਚੋਲ ਕਰਨ ਦੀ, ਕਿੱਥੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਖਲੋਤੇ ਹਾਂ ਤੇ ਕੀ ਵਾਕਿਆ 'ਚ ਅਸੀਂ ਚੇਂਜ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਹਾਂ। ਧੰਨਵਾਦ ਆਪ ਸਭ ਦਾ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਵਿੱਚ ਸ਼ਾਮਲ ਹੋਣ ਲਈ। ਫੀਡਬੈਕ ਲਈ 604 603 7555 ਜਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਈਮੇਲ ਰਾਹੀਂ harpreet@akaltv.com ਤੇ ਸੰਪਰਕ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ। ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਮੇਰਾ ਸਾਥ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਹਰ ਰੋਜ਼ ਮੰਡੇ ਟੂ ਫਰਾਈਡੇ ਸਵੇਰੇ 8 ਤੋਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ 9 ਵਜੇ ਤੱਕ, ਅਤੇ ਮੰਡੇ ਟੂ ਥਰਸਡੇ ਰਾਤ ਨੂੰ 10 ਤੋਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ 11 ਵਜੇ ਤੱਕ। ਸੈਟਰਡੇ ਨੂੰ 2 ਵਾਰੀ ਸਾਂਝ ਪਾਉਂਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਦੁਪਹਿਰ 2 ਤੋਂ 3 ਅਤੇ ਰਾਤ 8 ਤੋਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ 9 ਵਜੇ ਤੱਕ। ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਇਲਾਵਾ ਵਿਜ਼ਨ ਟੀਵੀ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਹਰ ਸ਼ਨੀਵਾਰ ਨੂੰ 1 ਤੋਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ 1:30 ਵਜੇ ਤੱਕ ਕੋਈ ਨਾ ਕੋਈ ਅਹਿਮ ਮੁੱਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਸਾਂਝ ਪਾਉਂਦੇ ਹਾਂ। ਸੋ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਆਪਣੀ ਫੀਡਬੈਕ ਦਿਆ ਕਰੋ, ਅਤੇ ਸਪਾਂਸਰਸ਼ਿਪ ਲਈ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਹੋਰ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਲੈਣੀ ਹੋਏ ਇਸ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਬਾਰੇ ਤਾਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ 604 202 3040 ਤੇ ਫੋਨ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ। ਫਿਰ ਮੁਲਾਕਾਤ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ, ਤਦ ਤੱਕ ਗੁੱਡ ਬਾਏ।